Welcome to Final Fights, brought to you by Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is currently whittling some sticks into sharp spears. It's Adam Hodgins.
You know, everywhere I go, I like to have 3 or 4 booby traps ready to go at any point in time.
I mean, you
just
have
in
to.
case.
Have to.
Yeah.
You know, even what I do is I do fake booby traps that are very obvious, and then people are like, oh, I caught it, and then they walk around it, and they have another booby trap ready for them.
Yeah, and that's why you are still alive.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what Dutch did in this fight.
Yeah.
Now, I just got to say one quick thing. So this is a long fight. This is about 8 minutes. And it's Dutch versus the Yautja or the Yautja. There's a couple different ways to pronounce it, but we're going to call him the Predator, who was played by Kevin Peter Hall, who was 7'2" at the time. This fight really works for me on a level of they found something big enough to make Arnold look weak. Right. Arnold, the basis of this fight is Arnold sets traps, gets the Predator coming to him. He builds the greatest bow and arrow, by the way, ever. And they start fighting, and Arnold gets snockered by this Predator. What I love most about this Predator is that the Predator works the body. The Predator delivers a gut shot to Dutch, and you just hear Dutch going, "Huh!" which blows my mind. The rest of the fight is Arnold Schwarzenegger crawling while the Predator just walks behind him cheekily.
Yeah. And I think this is the first time, like, in a movie that Schwarzenegger doesn't win this fight. He just doesn't die. Yeah.
He is able to trick the Predator because the Predator, you know what's interesting about this Predator is that my main issue with the Predators is that all my terms are not going to be correct. But they have an invisibility cloak or a cloaking thing, whatever shield that is. They have a heat-seeking shoulder cannon laser on their shoulder. They are 7 foot tall. They are self-healing, and they have tons of gadgets. They have tiny skeleton bandoliers, which are hilarious. In this film, the Predator should not have lost. And I thought it was interesting how they added in this hubris to the Predator, which cost the Predator its life.
But I think that hubris is a fundamental characteristic of who the Predator, what the Predator race is all about.
Yeah.
They should be called the hubris.
The hubris? And they're also called the Hishkuban, too, I think. That's another name for their race. There's 2 different races of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that last movie really added a lot of exposition we did not need.
I forgot about it completely. It's a lot, isn't it?
It's too much.
Yeah, too much. But I love the simplicity of this film. It's just one of my favorite things about film, and we've talked about this. I love it when a bunch of bad, tough, legit people are up against something much more bad than they are. So
yeah, something they don't understand.
As much as I love the Avengers, they're more powerful than the things that came out of that hole into space.
Right. It's just a numbers game.
I really like that this Predator just wipes out these guys. They do the smart thing of showing how tough Dutch, Blaine, Dylan, Mac, Billy, Hawkins, and what? There's one more name. I forget his name. How tough they are. And then they just get wiped out throughout the course of the film. And I got to tell you, I like what Schwarzenegger did in this scene because Schwarzenegger was fallible. And I really like that about it. And like you said, he just survived. Was that something pleasant for you when you watched it? Did you appreciate that because we've been watching this movie 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020. So like what did you think when you first saw it?
So this was the very first movie I bought on VHS.
Oh wow.
I paid $26.99 for it.
Great chance.
On VHS. So like as a family we owned like E.T. and a couple Disney movies, but this was the first. Was like, this is a movie I need to own, and so this movie blew my mind when I first saw it. But I remember being disappointed at the end fight because Schwarzenegger didn't win. Like, what was I? I would have been like 12 or 13 when I first bought it,
and he got smacked around.
Yeah, the big guy Schwarzenegger is supposed to be like. I didn't know how to digest a movie where Schwarzenegger just didn't dominate. Because I'm coming off of watching Commando, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just I remember, like, I loved it, and I'm not sure why I loved it, but this movie looks better than 90% of the Alien work that comes out now.
The creature work by Stan Winston is unbelievable. And James Cameron takes credit for the mandibles. I just wanted to let you know that.
Well, whatever it takes to get away from the Jean-Claude Van Damme version of the creature.
Did you see that version of the creature?
Yes, I did.
With the kind of alligator type build and then legs on stilts?
They put him into Predators.
Wow.
If you watch the Adrian Brody Predators movie, there's at the beginning, there's like two of those guys running around the forest that are like from other planets that the Predators are hunting as well.
All right, I need to watch that movie again to see that. And it's kind of crazy that they filmed it for 6 weeks. And then they halted production for 8 months, and then they shot another 5 weeks with The Predator.
But I'm saying if they wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
No, because they wanted it like an athletic, spin-kicky, front-kicky monster.
Lots of front kicks.
In this one, the first 2 strikes in this film, so the Predator backhands Dutch. And then Dutch backhands the Predator. And it's the most interesting. And then the Predator comes back up, backhands Dutch again, 2 punches, then he works a gut punch, and then the Predator lands 6 punches and blood sprayed out of Arnold's mouth, and then Arnold just starts crawling.
Yeah, what else do you do?
And in fight scenes, right, I know you can't really do these much for movies because there's just the believability. In a lot of fights, you hit somebody a couple times really good, they're on the ground. In this one, Arnold only took about 9 punches before he was crawling. And I kind of love that about it. Maybe it was the mobility of the creature. Also, do you think that the Predators have missed this Kevin Peter Hall? Because he was a mime and a dancer before he became... I love his movements as the Predator.
He was in Predator 2 as well, right?
Yeah, Predator 2. Yeah, 1 and 2.
Yeah, which are near... So I think there's this thing with Schwarzenegger franchises where 1 and 2 are near flawless, and then they all fall apart.
Yeah, because then it went to AVP, AVPR, Predators, and then The Predator?
The Predator, yeah. But even like if you watch the Terminator stuff, 1 and 2 are near perfect movies, and then it all falls apart.
I like in 3 I like the chase in 3 where he drops the anchor into the manhole cover and then the car flips. I think a lot of movies have ripped that off with like even Fast 9 trailer of large vehicles flipping head over. Like, you know what I mean? The back goes over the front.
No, there's good beats in them. Like there's cool things that happen, but if you watch 1 and 2 together, it's perfect.
You know what?
Change a shot.
This is kind of random, but you know what Predator taught me? And Terminator, what they taught me is simple is not easy.
No.
This movie is a simple plot. Special forces go in and they are hunted by a creature. Right. And it's a very, the one-liners work. It's very macho. It's very, I think, but the characters are, but it's interesting how I know all the characters' names in this movie, and I have forgotten characters' names from probably 98% of the movies I've watched. Right. So for some reason, this very simple plot was able to create likable characters, a memorable monster, but none of it was easy. This was an intense shooting schedule.
It was crazy, but here's a question for you. Is there, in the history of cinema, a more quotable movie?
Well, all right, barring comedies, right?
Yeah, but even that, comedies, you can quote them and they're funny, but almost every line of dialogue from this can be a one-off quote you tell somebody.
Yeah, get to the chopper, stick around.
Right. He's not scared of no man. Yeah. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
I'm gonna get you.
That's not what she said.
Yeah. Hello. Wasn't there a weird joke?
Yeah, there was a couple weird jokes. I remember as a kid being like in the room, avoiding eye contact with my parents during those moments. I'm like, I don't. If it's almost like you're playing hide and seek as a kid. It's like they can't see me, I can't see them. Let's get through these awkward jokes, and then we'll move on with the rest of the movie.
You know what I think about this film too? It's incredibly macho, but it's also accessible to me. I think it's accessible to most people. It's not. Absolutely. It's not these are not, like, these guys are certainly macho, but they're not, like, a lot of these movies where they're super acting tough. They're, I don't know, they're insecure or they're tough because they're insecure. These are just bad dudes who are up against a worse dude. And I think, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it was the 80s and this is what we wanted to see. This is what our action stars were. Like, it was of a time, but it's like timeless in that. Like you go back and you watch some movies. Like I watched Bill and Ted the other day with my kids because I'm like, hey, we're not going anywhere. And I forgot how like in the 80s there was lots of super like language that in a PG movie that would not fly today.
No.
Right? Like just about people's lifestyles and it was just like, why was this okay ever? Like, why was this language like? Why are these the heroes talking this way? And it's it doesn't age well. This movie, if I put it on right now, well, again, 2 years ago, The Predator was released.
Mm-hmm.
The Predator, and I was in a weird like 2 weeks when it came out. I was moving between two jobs. I was left one church and I was going to another church, and there was some like long meetings and whatnot. So I was coming home late from a meeting one night, and I said, Heather, I'm just going to go to with this little local theater called the Gem Theater. It's like a little independent. There was $5 for a ticket, and it's like 2 theaters. It's great. I was like, I'm going to go see the new Predator movie on the way home just to clear my head from everything that's going on. So she was like, okay, go for it. Go see the Predator. And I remember going into it and thinking like, not only is this not as good as the first one, it doesn't look as good, and like it doesn't hold up as well. It already ages weird compared to the original one that still is great.
Do you think that's partly because, I hate saying this word, but it's a very analog movie, Predator, and it's very brick and mortar. It's based on practical effects.
And you said that from our 13th Warrior podcast.
Yeah, you're right. Outstanding production design. Oh my gosh. A movie that doesn't age at all. Right. Beautiful.
But if you shoot things outside and you make practical effects, they're always going to look practical and good.
Yeah, and this movie. So if someone said, Mark, give me movies that are 30 years old or 35 years old, at least 35 years old, that have aged beautifully, this would be in my top 3.
What would your top 3 be?
Oh wow, that's a really interesting question. Anything by Kubrick, Shining, Doctor Strangelove, just sort of that kind of world. I would add this, and then, a lot of people, you know what? I don't care. I put like Empire Strikes Back. I would put Raiders of the Lost Ark. I would put Return of the Jedi, Jaws.
So my top 3 that don't age would be this,
Casablanca,
First Blood, like the first Rambo movie.
Yeah.
And The Road Warrior.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because again, it was all in camera. It was all just like, we're going to go and do these things. We want to have like a gasoline outpost in the desert. You got to go build a gasoline outpost in the desert.
And they did it too. What about, I wonder if Waterworld's held up because they built everything as well, but that's not 35 years old. So this is
the only time I feel real fear as an adult, like real judgmental fear. Like again, we've talked about this, Mark. I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and you get in a room full of 10 adults, and 1 will be a pro wrestling fan, 3 won't care, and the rest are going to think you're an idiot for liking pro wrestling. But you say it anyways. It's no big deal. But the only time I feel like peer pressure fear as an adult is when I say I genuinely liked watching Waterworld. I liked that movie a lot.
I mean, everything's on screen.
Yeah.
They spent a massive quantity of, they've spent a foolish amount of money on that movie.
Foolish.
That atoll that they built used up almost all the steel in Hawaii. Foolish amount. But it's on screen. And you
don't wonder where
great.
The money is.
Yeah, never. I guess getting back to Predator, I always thought that the trap that Dutch built was more intense than what it was. But watching it again, my weird data that I do. Remember the trap in Predators, how intense it was? That took a guy like a month to build. This one, a few sharpened sticks, a log up in the air, and some fire. Yeah. He built the kill zone, essentially. You and I couldn't do it, but he built a standard kill zone in an area. And
we could do it.
You're right. We could do it. It would take both of us to lift that log up, though.
We could do it.
That log would.
How long? So we're always henchmen in our movies. Mm-hmm. Who would we be in the Predator universe?
Let's see. We would be.